Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
I'm Michele DeLuca. This is Nancy Proulx, and together we are the Power Portal. We talk about power, personal power, and how to fortify your own personal power so that as you go forth in the world, you can be your best self and maybe even make change when needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Just staying centered and very aware. Your power is used, I would say, with the best intention
Yes.
by taking a sacred pause.
Sacred pause. I love that. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. I'm going to write that down
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Sacred pause.
Yeah.
That's when we breathe and we center. Because today our topic is fear. And I wanted to talk about fear because lately, even though I consider myself a very brave person, I had to be as a young journalist. I had to interview murderers and go into dark neighborhoods, and that's just expected when you're covering the news, which I have done for most of my adult life. So I consider myself relatively not fearless, because I think the idea of courage is having the fear and doing it anyway.
Right.
But I have been fearful lately, especially in the evenings when I'm trying to sleep. I find myself laying in bed and feeling very empathetic towards people like the Israeli families where the intruders entered their home in the darkness of night while they were sleeping, and from the stories that we've been told, did horrible things to them, to the families, before they murdered them. I can imagine how horrifying it must be to be at a concert, enjoying yourself, or being at home and having intruders break in with the intent to cause you horrific harm. So, and I also feel the same for the people in Gaza, families who are just trying to be at peace with their families and go to bed at night and have to worry that there'll be a bomb that will destroy everything that they love and everything that they hold dear. And so I'm feeling, again, the same way about the Russian attack on the Ukraine, which is where you're going about your life. You could be sitting having a cup of coffee in a cafe and a bomb will end everything. And so I'm feeling very connected. And before we move on to talk about fear and how to deal with it, I want to say that one of the reasons I believe I'm feeling it more fully in my body, feeling more intimately connected to these people, is one of my spiritual beliefs is that we're all connected. One of my scientific beliefs, metaphysically scientific beliefs, is that there is a consciousness surrounding the planet that keeps us all connected. We've all heard about when great creative ideas come to the planet through scientists or musicians
100th
or artists.
monkey.
Yes. That the ideas drop in more than one place. More proof, I believe, that we are all connected. And lastly, the internet, I think, connects us even more intimately, so that not only do I hear the stories the way I might have 200 years ago, reading in a newspaper 200 years ago, I would go like, oh, those poor people. Now I can see the faces of the people whose homes have been bombed. I can hear their tears. I can watch them hold their dead children. Now I'm feeling really like they are me, that I am them.
Yeah.
And so when I go to bed at night, I think almost every night of these, that it could be us, it could be me, it could be my family, the people that I adore. And so that's part of the fear that I'm facing. Then there's the average fear of hoping nothing will happen to your children as they go out into their own lives every day. I often liken having children to having your heart walk around outside your body. And just general everyday fears that I'm feeling more often lately than usual. So I wanted to address that because I wanted to see your thoughts on that and talk about how you might feel and maybe address some issues that our viewers are having, our listeners are having.
Well, I think you're talking about the global consciousness versus your own personal consciousness.
Yes.
And the fear related to it. And yes, we now know that what is in the whole is in us. And there are some people that can tend to block that out, and there's a balance, I believe, between watching the news and being informed and being inundated with it, like people that listen to it all day long,
The 24-hour news stations.
Yeah. And you watch some of these announcers, and they're repeating the same story over and over again, and with just maybe some different words. But
it feels like violence and chaos is happening all over our world every minute of every day.
And it is.
Yes, and it has since, and it has since
Right
the
now
beginning of
it
time.
is. And I think this point in our evolution right now is a turning. It is an evolution. We're ending the Piscean age and moving into the Aquarian age. The Piscean age was all about that.
It does make me feel like singing, "This is the dawning
Yeah,
of the age of Aquarius." Anyway.
Yeah, so we are moving, but really what we are called to do is let go of everything that we have learned in the Piscean age, like dominance, dictatorship, abuse of power. That's what this time is about.
Oppression, yes, of course.
It is all coming to the surface to be cleansed so that we can move into the heart. Okay? When I look at this, I mean, survival fear is the lower three chakras. And we've been talking about for how long now? The power of the heart.
When you say we, you mean people who are interested in human potential and metaphysical issues, our spiritual
Heart
leaders.
math, right? Yeah. And from my own experience, and I'm sure a lot of people out there, you go to sleep and you think there's nothing on your mind, you lay your head down on that pillow, and all the thoughts start to come and surface because we finally quieted that part of ourself down, and now the body starts to speak and it comes up because everything that has been stored in there we did not become aware of and we did not let go of during the day. So when I talk about war or disruption in the global, I say be aware of it, but all you can do is the work on yourself. You can only work on the war within yourself.
Ooh, that's fascinating.
And that helps the collective, is to do your own work so that, and then if you are somebody who is in service to humanity, even if it's in a little volunteer job, you spread it. So as you work through that and you can hold this peace within yourself, you remember your thoughts create what's going to happen tomorrow. So if you have fear thoughts all day long, your tomorrow's going to be very fear. You're going to create.
Well, you're certainly going to experience dismay and disruption if you're facing a new day in fear.
Yeah.
And so I like to believe that we do have the opportunity to change the world. And I agree with you that it has to happen inside of ourselves first. That sounds like a weak solution, I think, to some people. Oh, sure, if I'm nice to my neighbor, that's going to stop war over in the Ukraine or in Gaza or attacks on Israel. It's hard to imagine, but I want to point out one of the things I thought was really important to look at in this conversation is that, once again, those who are disrupting our planet, among the nearly 8 million of us, are a very, very small percentage. There are so many people who are going to work every day. They're loving their families. They're taking care of their children. Yeah. They're doing volunteer work. And I can promise you this is true from my work at the daily newspaper. There was never a lack of stories about people who were out there giving so much of themselves, whether they were volunteering at the hospitals. I did a wonderful story that I'll never forget about 90-year-olds who, there was like a dozen of them volunteering at the local hospital. And when I interviewed them, they were like teenagers. They were flirting with each other and they were so full of life. That certainly, giving to the planet does give back to our own selves to begin with, and makes us, I think, a little more joyful and a little more peaceful and a little more satisfied that maybe we are doing something to change the planet. So I was just saying what I think a lot of people say, oh, sure, I'm going to change the planet by changing my attitude.
But can we work on ourselves? And I'll give you an example. I just moved my horse to a new facility, and she's feeling very fearful. When I went out to take care of her and that, I could jump into that fear of her. Is this right? Go into all of that, right decision, all those survival issues. Or could I stay with, can I just, beneath all of that emotion, there's a feeling of, this can work out. This can work out. And I can actually help my horse adjust if I can stay there. That's how it works.
And that is true of children.
Right.
And that is even adult children.
Right.
That is true of families and partners and your work environment. If you can bring a sense of peace and love and wholeness to wherever it is you're going on the planet, you touch everyone with that energy and maybe change their energy. And it sounds like a little bit. It sounds like, oh, how could that little bit possibly change the world? And yet,
you just add it in. But, you're raising the vibration, like a vibration of fear and powerlessness, very low vibration. Even if you raise that vibration up to hope, you are moving up the scale of creating a more positive change. So
I love that. Even if you raise it just up to hope, hoping that our fellow humans
possibility
won't self-destruct.
Right.
I like that, because that is actually the only place that I can live. I hope that what I have heard from mystics and channelers and spiritual leaders is that this is just an opportunity for change caused by disruption. As I said earlier, we don't change without the disruption.
Right.
And so, but you said to me when we were talking about this earlier that some things will never change. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, we live in a world of duality. So there's always going to be light and dark. Okay.
Right. Because some people believe, as I do, that we come here, and as you do, that we come here to learn, and we can't learn without seeing both the dark and the light.
Right. We have to have, it's the challenges that cause us to grow. And, the challenge, even, looking about moving into the Aquarian age, I mean, the challenge now is being much more aware of our thoughts so that we could create through our heart. I mean, 100 years ago, we weren't aware of that. So that's where our evolution has gone. Are there still going to be dark thoughts? Are you still going to have? Yes,
oh my goodness,
it's still, there's always going to be a duality, and it's for our ability to have more self-awareness, to learn to co-create.
Yeah. With who?
God.
And each other?
The source.
Yes, the source. I like that.
Yeah.
Co-create with God. We almost, I know that when we are in fear, we cannot touch our inner wisdom, let alone hear any guides or angels or whatever you believe is offering you assistance in this life. I don't believe that we can hear them clearly, including our own interior wisdom, if we are loaded and preoccupied with fear. And lately I've caught myself, because now I'm watching myself, I've caught myself lately examining the fearful thoughts that pop up. Oh, did I lock that door? What if somebody comes in? Or things like that. My child is going on a trip. I hope my child will be okay. I find myself catching those thoughts. And it's funny because I circle back. When they were younger, and I realized that having two sons was like having two of my hearts walk around outside my body, that I had absolutely no control to keep them safe when they weren't with me. And that's never become more clear as they've grown into adults. I can't keep them safe. But what I can do is kind of release them to their destiny. I believe that we come in with a soul idea of what we want to be and who we want to be in this life. And so for me not to be in constant fear for their safety, expanding my circle of fear, I have to release them to their destiny and possibly do the same thing for myself, which is not to be so frightened about what might occur to me, but rather believe and hope that things will change as I know they can.
I had an example yesterday, and I'll share this with everybody. Because we have fear thoughts that come up. Where they come from, sometimes we have no idea.
Certainly reminding our own business, going along, having a happy day.
I'm walking down the street, and there's a person coming down the other way and stopped to talk to me, and he turned around and then started coming up, following behind. And I had a little conversation with him while he was, passing me, and but we live out in a very rural area. So I was like, oh, that fear thought came up like, oh, wait, do I know this person? He's behind me, that. And I could have stayed in my head, but I decided, you know what? I dropped down and I said, I had a conversation with this man. My body felt very comfortable. No threat. No. So I went to my body to say, oh, what's the truth? The body will never lie. The head will.
I love that. Actually, the same thing happened to me at the
Yeah.
gym where I was alone in the gym with a man, and he kind of made me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I checked with my heart, and my intuition literally dropped into my heart, and I felt safe. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, you are safe here.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me feel better. I think as women, we tend to, we, it would be, as women, it wouldn't be logical for us not to be a little discomforted if we're being followed by someone or being watched by someone.
Absolutely.
Because
Self-preservation is a good thing to have.
from the beginning of time, women have been more easily controlled by more powerful humans, typically men, and bigger, stronger. And so I suppose that is like the horse's fear that kind of is born from centuries of having to be cautious. And I just want to stop because I want to go back and address what you were just saying about being in your body, because that's something you've learned from the horses and from the animals, because as you may know from our other podcast, Nancy is an animal communicator. I like to call her a horse whisperer. You're an equestrian. That's kind of how you came to this work, because you wanted to understand your horses. And then eventually you studied with Carolyn Mays, the renowned acclaimed mystic, author, spiritual leader. You studied for 5 years, and now you are certified in intuitive counseling for humans, of course, as you have been for most of your adult life. And I, of course, am a journalist and an author and a filmmaker, all on matters of human potential and our ability to be more than we are. I've been obsessed by that topic since I was a young mother myself. So that describes who we are. And I just want to say that learning from the horses taught you how to be in your body. Now, can we talk more about how to be in your body?
Yes. It is like we're talking about fear today, everybody. If you just kind of drop into your body, and where do you feel it? And how impactful is it? Do you stop breathing if you feel fear? Do you sometimes I could go to a point where if I go deep enough, it's like almost where I feel paralyzed. But there's a point where you could feel paralyzed by doing something, and I could go really deep into my body and say, that has to be moved. We have to move through that. I have to become aware of it. I have to touch it with my consciousness.
You have to touch the place that you are, where you are feeling fear and frozen.
Yes.
You have to touch that place with your consciousness. Another set of good words I really like. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So that takes a lot of practice and a lot of awareness. Takes a lot of learning to, even in meditation, a lot of times people are doing visualizations or they're talking during their meditation in their head, and instead of really going to that still point, because, the emotion a lot of time connects us to our body, but feeling is deeper than emotion.
Oh, feeling is deeper than emotion. Let's explore that a little bit, because I have witnessed with your horses how you help people get in touch with the feelings in their body. It's not about riding the horse, it's about standing beside them and the horse being present and being able to indicate when it feels you are not present. It disrupts the horse when you are not present as a human. Nancy does this work with veterans suffering from PTSD, and it's very impactful work, finding out where in your body you're feeling not only stress but fear. I really have trouble doing that. We did an exercise in one of our podcasts about that, and I was trying to find where I might feel discomfort. If you go back to that experience with the man on the street, country roads, just you and him, he starts a conversation, then feels like he's following you. Where in your body did you feel it?
I noticed the fear thought come up, and I was like, okay, so is this a personality, is this I went into my body to find if there was truth to the fear thought.
Okay. Tell me exactly how you did that.
So what I did was I just kind of went, as I'm walking, I went in, and I just dropped to my solar plexus, and I do this a lot. I try to become really, really aware of this is the emotion I'm feeling. Can I still the emotion for a second and feel below it? Okay.
Behind it or beneath it.
Beneath it. And there's this strength, this center, this power, this connectedness that we have to practice getting to. Takes a lot of practice, and the more I do it, the easier it is to get to that place.
There are so many spiritual practices that involve getting to that place, that kind of like your gut, but it's also
the small still voice is there.
Yes. Why isn't the small still voice in my head?
It's not. Yeah.
I mean, I do hear there are a lot of voices in my head.
There's lots of too. I know. Michelle, it's like if we are trying to strategize, plan, think our way out of something, we are not connected to the spirit.
All right. Connect me to the spirit then.
It's really about every time, the same thing, like that example. Okay, so there's a fear thought that comes up. Okay, we want to make sure. Okay, is this a legitimate fear? If it's a legitimate fear, like somebody's coming after me, the hair should raise on the back of my neck. Your body will tell you, yeah, get out of here.
Run for your life. Yeah.
And they have done research on women who have been raped or people that have been in situations where they said, you know what, I had this feeling before I walked in and I just ignored it.
I have seen that so many times in stories about women who've been raped or attacked, that they really felt like it was coming. Now, the problem is that you felt discomfort. I see. Okay, now I'm there.
So I checked it out.
So you checked it out.
For truth.
Yes. I have been doing that a lot lately myself, trying to tap into my intuition and literally asking myself, using a very simple system of a red light, green light. And I say, good. Am I safe here? And I wait for the light to move. I use it for a lot of things. Is this healthy for me? It's kind of like muscle testing, but in your imagination. So I'm using my brain, because sometimes it's hard to shut our brains off. It's certainly hard to shut mine off. I really, really would like to be able to get into my heart more often and live from that place, because I believe in my whole heart and in my whole mind that that can change not only the way we move through the planet, it enhances our lives and can also bring about peace, When I traveled to Russia with a friend of mine who was meeting every year with ladies who were running a school in Russia, teaching kids about the economics, about computers, and they adored her, and we went to visit them, and they showed us such love, the Russians, such love, such happiness to have us there, such a celebration. I felt like I was with family. It felt that comfortable to me. In Russia, what I'm trying to say here is that we always think that those are the others, no matter what political party we're in. I think we're causing fear we are fearful of the other political party, no matter which way you lean, because there's so much anger in our country right now, and fear that the other is going to make us live in a country that we do not believe in the ethics of. And so if we just start there in terms of fearfulness, remembering that we all want the same thing might be a good place to start as well.
Yeah, putting yourself in someone else's shoes is always great to have just an empathic view of what's going on, to have some understanding. But again, there's things that we have to realize. I'm not going to change the political party except by however I want to vote, or I want to become an activist. If some people are called to be, an activist or an advocate for something.
Certainly, I love the idea of protest, nonviolent protest. That is, our country is based on that. It always makes me a little crazy when the protesters go into violence or create fear.
The mob mentality.
Because it just takes over.
It does. And I don't know if anybody is taught, like our college kids on the campus, do you know what a mob mentality is? You know how centered you have to be in this protest, to stay centered so that you do see the other side, and that, that mob mentality takes over. It's powerful.
It is powerful. And I do think that they should be talking about this relentlessly on college campuses. Yeah. Let's look at both sides of the story. We are sometimes not getting both sides of the story, and I think that's what disrupts the students, not to mention there are literal disruptors coming in, we understand, from other countries who would benefit by our country being disrupted.
Right.
And you feel like also there are that it is to the benefit of some of our institutions to keep us in fear, because that's a great way to control a population.
Right. Yeah.
That's
the way it's been manipulated. It's under abuse of power, which is really what the whole Piscean age we were talking about. It's, the dictatorship and the abuse of power and wearing the mask. And as we're for probably since the 60s, right, when the Aquarian age, people started to feel the Aquarian age come in, and like we even talked about how the music started to shift and everything started to become of the heart. We were already feeling the shift.
And then what happened
of the Aquarian age? It is all the shadows are coming up right now, because there's nowhere else to go but forward. But the shadows are coming up to be cleansed. So it's part of the process. The way we can help is not getting pulled into the fear.
To the mob mentality.
Yes.
To stay present, to stay centered, and to keep a loving heart, I think.
Yeah, and have that hope for humanity and do your part. Well, what can I do today? Well, I'm going to just take care of my neighbor today, or I'm going to, cut their lawn, or it's like we are not powerless, even though we're one individual. And I think that's what we have to remember, that we incarnated down here at this time for this awareness.
I believe that as well.
Just even sharing our conversations, like you and I, we just want to share our conversations so that we're like, these are just too good to not be shared. Well, there's other people that are having the same questions that you and I have with each other and with the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's go over the solutions again. So stay hopeful.
Yes.
Stay centered in your heart. Drop into your heart. If you have fear, drop into your heart and or your gut. Is that what you suggest, to see where the fear, what's behind the fear?
You want to notice during the day when you do have a fear thought, or something happens in your body that contracts, where okay, this is just energy that's coming in right now that I need to address, to look at, to see, is this truth or is this not truth? And this is some of the work that I do with people is to help them be more in touch with their body, because your body will not lie.
Your body will not lie.
No, it will give you this learning, journaling. Put all of everything down. You're a big journaler, and
I do journal. I've got years of journals, and I keep going back, and two things pop up, and one is how much I've grown, and the other is how I haven't really grown at all. Like, it's interesting to see the same issues circulating. I think I'm getting better at addressing them, but as we talked about last time we were together, we get those lessons again and again,
right,
and hopefully get better at them each time.
Yeah, and then if you do have that critical voice that comes up, or in your journaling, that's when you want to look at that and go in deeper and say, oh, is this true? Is this not true? And it might give you some really good information. Oh, I need to go, for somebody that wants to learn public speaking, go to Toastmasters.
My son goes.
Yeah.
He loves that.
Yeah. So it's all about being aware when that critical voice comes in, when doubt comes in, because that is just the war within us. And if we can address the war within us, that will
begin to change at
the
least your world.
Yeah, it adds to the collective consciousness. So, and you feel better. You can help people around you, as we shift, our family shifts, it all is interconnected.
Okay, so you're lying in bed at night and all these thoughts start coming in. What do you do?
Well, for me, I will I'll start to either do a relaxation exercise, which I do, where I go through every part of my body, and I'll actually contract it, and then I'll all the stress go. And
I've
so
done that.
I will go through my body, do that. Sometimes I will, I love to turn on a very motivational thing on my phone to listen to while I'm going to sleep. Then.
Motivation. I like spiritual messages
Yeah.
coming to me as I'm trying to fall asleep.
Yeah.
I do find I have had success with breath work, just breathing, deep breathing. Breath does seem to cleanse us and open us. I would like to remember more to go into my heart and to know that at least for this moment in time I am safe, and that it's very unlikely that that will change over the course of an evening, given what I know about my neighborhood, my city, my state, my country. Thank God we live in a country where we can feel safe for the most part when we're asleep, when we're sleeping, and
that's gratefulness. Being grateful. That's
Grateful.
another thing at night that I'll do. Okay, let me just sit here and list everything that I'm grateful for this day. And so that's another way to start to raise yourself out of that fear energy, that lower vibration.
I love that. So do you have more to say on this then?
I just want to add a little bit to what you had to say about breath. And I use breath during the day a lot to when I become aware of being stressed. One of the things I have recently learned through Masami Covey is that we have a signature breath. Okay, but we can change that signature breath, and actually the breath out is the letting go breath. And instead we start our breath work with what? 1, 2.
Right.
Okay, what we want to do is start your exhale as 1, 2. And your exhale should be longer than your inhale.
That's interesting.
And when you switch the timing and the counting on it, you'll see that your out breath of letting go is a little bit longer than your in breath.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to who Masami Covey is.
She is an intuitive health practitioner. So she very much brings in some spirituality, but she's a medical intuitive, so she very much is focused on what you can do to help the physical body with different herbs, different energy medicine.
I will put the link in our YouTube video.
Yeah, so she's very interesting.
Great. I love the idea that I do a lot of reading on human potential and personal healing holistically, and I have not yet come across the one breath being the out breath. That's going to be confusing for me for a while. Like, what?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, so I
good.
thought that was really interesting.
Thank you for sharing that. So basically, breathe, drop into your heart, figure out where you are freezing when you are in fear, and have hope for the planets, and calm the war inside yourself, and that will reflect out into the world. And that is how we create change.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Good
Michele.
one.
Yeah.